All right, guys, let's do a bow and then let's get running round.
Yes, good hustle. Keep it going.
Are we listening? Are we listening?
All right, we are here at Parestra Pool BJJ. We're here with Matt Benyon, and this is episode 30. We thought it was episode 30 last week, but it wasn't. This is episode 30.
What a way to have an episode, nice round number with a big deal in the jiu-jitsu world.
Definitely.
Who's that then?
He's coming along in a minute.
Yeah. But no, it's a pleasure to have you, man.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, not at all. Do you want to start with the questions? Do you want to start a little bit of chat?
Yeah, look. I mean, Matt, do you want to just tell us a little bit about you? You know, what you do in the jiu-jitsu industry, how you got started, and just a bit about your background.
Yeah, I've been training. I keep telling people it's basically 20 years, but it might not quite be 20 years. I don't know, but I should be much better than I am for someone that's been training for 20 years.
I'm like, it's been 12 or 13 years. I'm not really sure.
Getting beaten up by people who've been training for like 7 or 8. But I guess. About 15 years ago, started the brand Scramble. So that's my main thing that keeps me busy every day, and also co-founder of Polaris, the professional jiu-jitsu event. It's normal jiu-jitsu noises.
Everyone's just no one hears that anymore.
Everyone's reaching out to slap a bottle in my car.
And a couple of other things here and there, but those are the two main things. Yeah.
I mean, they must keep you busy.
Very busy. Yeah. Yeah. I'd say it's like 95% Scramble and 5% Polaris. Should be closer to equal, but that's impossible unless I cloned myself.
That really surprises me that Polaris sort of isn't much more of a beast.
Well, there's a lot of us in Polaris.
Yeah,
there's there's like 3 or 4 other. There's 3 other founders and then a couple of full-time staff and a couple of other people helping out. So there is a team there, a really good team.
Yeah. And so how did you get to jiu-jitsu? How did you, what sort of appealed to you to start training?
My sort of story is when I went to uni, my housemate, or the guy in the house next door was really into Kung Fu, and he sold it to me in a way that like I couldn't resist. Yeah, he made it really cool. It was all very mysterious and.
You said Wing Chun then?
Wing Chun,
yeah.
But he didn't tell me it was Wing Chun. It was super mysterious. He'd like fully bought into the, kind of mystery of it all, and I got caught up in that, so I became really obsessed with it as well. And then I was so into it actually that I went to Australia because there was some like Kung Fu master in Chinatown that would like accept students from overseas, and you could get a visa to study Kung Fu.
Sounds like the start of a Kung Fu movie.
I mean, yeah, but my parents weren't too happy because I basically quit uni and was like, I'm going to go and do Kung Fu in Australia. And they were like, what? But it was a good move. I did like a year of just doing Kung Fu every day and, trying to make money and survive. And then the kind of shortened version is I started watching Pride, K1 and Pride, and got really into it. Realized that no one was doing Kung Fu there. I was like, I don't think what I'm doing is very good. And then just found a jiu-jitsu gym. And it was like a classic early days jiu-jitsu gym. It was in a weightlifting gym. There'd be like Pilates classes or whatever. And then once that had gone, we would do jiu-jitsu. The guy was a purple belt. And just gradually like gave up the Kung Fu and just went all the way into jiu-jitsu. Like, I vaguely wanted to do MMA in the beginning because I liked striking. I did put a lot of time into Kung Fu, even though it sucks. And
Wing Chun, I feel like, was one of the sort of like, it was sort of put out as one of the sort of more legitimate styles. Like, I remember we had a good friend at the time who was a black belt under Kevin, who we spoke about earlier, who's a legitimate Wing Chun sort of expert.
Yeah.
And I remember we were at the pub and he was working the door that night.
Yes.
And it was real, like, there was some excitement that he was on the door because there used to be kids turning up who would like try and get in.
See him, like,
and I was like, man, he's just going to like, what's it, Tan Sao?
Yeah.
Bong Sao. Yeah, like they're going to get fucked up. And one of them smacked him in the face, but like landed the punch. And
Oh,
I
right.
remember like the mystique was just like gone.
Yeah,
I was like,
He's a man.
you
Well,
can punch this guy? Like,
Yeah, I nearly forgot.
Yeah.
A similar thing happened to me. We were walking around in Sydney late at night, and a bunch of I think Samoans just thought, "Oh, we're going to beat the shit out of you. Why not?" And they just came up to us and just started like leathering us, and we were like, "Fuck." Actually, my mate did a lot better than I did, but I have a theory that 'cause I thought that story was going to end with like he smashed them up.
no.
No.
I mean, he didn't do anything to him, and it just sort of stopped.
Right.
So it was like,
Well, I have a theory that like if you're a tough guy, that you could do yoga and you can still beat people up. Like, it doesn't
downward
matter.
dog the fuck out of someone.
Yeah. Like there was some legit like hard men at that Wing Chun Academy, but they could have been doing anything.
Yeah.
And they would
They're
still
just tough.
be able to beat people up.
Yeah.
We got beaten up. And I just realized, and also I realized like self-defense itself was a bit of a crock because it's like 95% mental. If there's somebody who spends every weekend getting into punch-ups and you don't, they've got the edge on you. It doesn't matter how good you are. But conversely, I find that jiu-jitsu probably prepares you better because, when you're sparring, quite often you're going like full power, full speed, and the other person wants to stop you with all of their power and all of their speed. So I feel like that probably closer mimics an actual street fight than like a self-defense routine.
Yeah, 100%.
I think also like with striking, you don't. It's been said before. You don't always get the chance to go 100% all the time because obviously everyone's going to get injured. Whereas we can. We can use all of our sort of strength or whatever technique all the time.
In a mostly safe manner.
Yeah, and I think it's probably not as true these days. But there was a point in time where if you knew jiu-jitsu, most people, if you got in a street fight, they'd be like, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah.
If you knew what you were doing, you could get hold of someone.
Those Gracie's in action tapes were hilarious.
Yeah.
The other people had no clue what was coming.
100%, yeah.
There's a few kung fu guys on that, aren't there? And like they just get pieced up.
Yeah.
I still find that, now we've said this before, like if you, just as a, when you've got friends who know you do jiu-jitsu, it's like, you're at a garden party, well, you're at a barbecue or whatever, and someone's like, let's have a go, and you get hold of them, they're like, oh God, chill out, mate. And I think it's just that conditioning level. You're like, I'm not even going.
Yeah, I've just grabbed your arm and you've.
Yeah. It's a fun. So I think your reaction speed increases, doesn't it? When you do something like this.
Yeah.
But also we've got a number of stories from like kids who, or teenagers that were in the class when they've got into some sort of an altercation, something as simple as a grip break so they can run away. It's, it's so useful, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And just being in that situation where you might ordinarily be in like fight or flight and be panicking.
Yeah.
Whereas like, say, if you've had someone like, routinely
trying to rip your head off.
Yeah, well,
And competing as well.
100%. If you're a competitor, it's dealing with that.
Yeah, because you've got no clue who's standing there.
Yeah, and what they're going to do, and that pushing that fight or flight down. I think it's very, very important, very useful, isn't it?
Definitely. So did you start training jiu-jitsu so you said that you started training in Australia?
Yep.
So that was we're talking like 2005, something like that?
Yeah, 4 or 5, yeah.
Yeah, it must have been pretty early for Australia. I've heard a few people talking about the history of jiu-jitsu in Australia, but
There
not
was
too up on it.
There was I forget their names. There was an Aussie guy that was in the UFC.
Oh, okay.
There was a couple of them. Elvis Sinusek, I think.
Oh yeah, I know the name.
King of Rock and Rumble or something. Yeah, that's right. There was that side of it, which I think went back to the Machados, and then I was under this organization called Roots, and I forget the guy's name. It was a Brazilian guy, just like the classic thing. I imagine Brazilians in the 90s just spinning a globe and going, "Yeah,
do that.
You go there, I'll go there. We'll start a gym."
Yeah.
I forget his name. He was pretty hardcore. I hardly ever saw him. Yeah, I was training under an Aussie called Brad.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so then you went down to Japan, did you say?
Then I met a Japanese girl. We came back to England briefly, but it was a massive bummer after living in Sydney, and I didn't want to stay in England. And we went to Japan. And our first order of business was find a gym to train at. Yeah. I wanted to do MMA, but I got my nose broken, and because Parestra. So this is Parestra, yeah. Which is a coincidence because my whole jiu-jitsu career in Japan was at Parestra. Parestra is huge in Japan. Like every city has 3 or 4 of them.
Oh, right, wow.
And like Yuki Nakai, the head guy, is very famous in those sort of martial arts circles. but most of the gyms were traditionally MMA and Jiu-Jitsu, or Shuto and Jiu-Jitsu. Shuto being like an MMA league that exists in Japan, where you can go from amateur all the way to professional. But it's really well structured. They have like A class, B class, C class, and the rules change as they go along. You know, it's like all headwear and elbow pads and knee pads, and then you graduate to the next class. If you win enough matches, then they take the pads off, and then they change.
Cool.
It's brilliant.
You have to win the matches.
You have to win, then you get your different licenses, and then finally you get a pro license, and then you go and do their pro shows, and you get paid. It's really, really good. And it's been around for decades. Like they're way ahead of us. So if you look at the Parestra logo, it says Shuto and Jiu-Jitsu. So all the gyms, like our gym was just a big room, and they would just put a line down the middle, and it'd be MMA on one side and Jiu-Jitsu on the other side, with lots of crossover. And I liked the idea of doing MMA until I got a couple of, some guy like leathering my legs. I was like, that's really fucking painful. And then I got my nose broken in Jiu-Jitsu actually, but it gave me like a perspective of like, I really can't be bothered to do MMA. So I just stuck with Jiu-Jitsu.
It's a commitment, isn't it? I see it at our gym. You know, our gym's, it's predominantly a jiu-jitsu gym and kickboxing, but it's sort of advertised as an MMA gym. But that's probably the smallest team in the gym, I'd say.
It's become that, though, isn't it?
It's become a jiu-jitsu and kickboxing gym because they're just the most established
MMA is just
teams.
less fun to train. I don't know. I might
The
be wrong.
longevity, man, it's just not there. Like I think it's so hard to commit to the program and stay with it.
You don't get
for
many
long
people
enough.
just casually doing MMA twice a week for 20 years.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, literally, like that just doesn't exist, does it?
It's a hard life.
Yeah.
In an MMA fight, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
hard on the body. It's the lifestyle's hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's the commitment you have to make. Whereas I think, I don't know, jiu-jitsu, you can, you know, it gets under your skin, of course. I feel like personally, it got under my skin. I loved striking arts as well, and I did kickboxing for a number of years, but this really got under my skin.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether it's because of the big puzzle of it, or whether it's just like, you know, it's not as hard on the body. You know?
I think it's probably both of those things.
So you're in Japan. We've moved back to England at this point, is it?
I think I lived in Japan for about 4 years, and then it's difficult to sort of progress any sort of career in Japan unless you're fluent in every aspect of Japanese, and even then it's not that easy. You know, there's like limited options. You can either try and get a university teaching job or start your own English school. You know, they're not, it's not things that I wanted to do really. And I wanted to be a writer. That was my thing. I don't know, I just felt like the right time to come back to the UK. And it was terrible timing because there was a massive recession and I couldn't get a job. What was that, 2008 or something? Yeah. And I couldn't get a job, but carried on the jiu-jitsu. Actually, I did judo for a bit just because it was cheap and I didn't have any money.
£2 a go.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Couldn't believe it. And then there was a jiu-jitsu guy. There is a jiu-jitsu guy in Bournemouth called Alex, who's been around for a long time. You guys know Alex.
Yeah.
And I dropped in there every now and then, but honestly, I couldn't afford it. Like when I came back from Japan, I had no money.
Jiu-jitsu's always been like a very sort of business forward thing, isn't it? It's not like, it's, you know, pay your subs. It's like you've got a membership that's coming out every month.
It's like a gym.
Which is good in a way. Like it's good for jiu-jitsu
People
business.
can make a living.
Yeah, you can literally make a living. Whereas judo, you look at it and you think it's hard to make a living in judo.
I got no clue.
Everyone
dropping a couple of quid in the box.
It's very old school, isn't it?
Yeah, it's completely different, isn't it?
I think you said before, jiu-jitsu just got way better marketing.
Mm.
I think from the very start of UFC 1, UFC 1 was a great big advert from the Gracies to the American market, wasn't it? It was
big time,
very well marketed from the get-go in the Western world.
And it's a good, you know, from a brand perspective as well. You can make cool stuff that people want to buy.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like other similar sports.
Yeah, definitely.
Came back to England. I taught for a little bit just because I had a purple belt and that was quite unusual around at the time. But actually the level was pretty decent of people here and everyone was a lot bigger and stronger. I was like 67 kilos when I came back from Japan.
Really?
Skinny as anything. So I struggled a little bit. I had like good technical knowledge, but a lot of the guys were really tough.
Lots of big boys.
Big Polish lads, you know, MMA guys, like, can I come to your grappling? Okay. And then what else happened? I joined a gym Gary Baker Academy. It doesn't exist anymore, and I guess I was the sort of main coach there. Well, Gary was the main coach, but I realized pretty quickly that I needed to improve my own jiu-jitsu. Like, I didn't really enjoy being the kind of most qualified guy in the room that much at that time, and I was still trying to compete, fairly often. And I think after just getting my butt kicked, I was like, I need to go somewhere else. And then I joined Ippon, and I've been there for ages now.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Great place.
Yeah, Jeff's wicked, isn't he? So, I think if you get a good gym with, I was saying this earlier, like you get a good gym, the ethos comes from the top down, doesn't
Definitely,
it? Do you know what I mean? If you get the guy, the top coach, if he's got a good ethos and he doesn't have too much of an ego, it just filters down. Yeah. And then people who have an ego, they stick it like a sore thumb and they get kind of weeded out, don't they? Yeah. You get the same with Colin at our gym. Yeah.
Colin's a nice guy, very well-spoken, polite,
And he's very relaxed.
Yeah, and that filters down.
Yeah.
Same with Jeff.
Yeah,
but then able to train seriously when you have to.
Oh, the training's always hard.
Yeah.
But there's less of that sort of, praise at the top. It's it's sort of being humble, isn't it? Yeah. It's good. I mean, you've got 2 boys, is that right?
2 boys, yeah. 14 and 16.
14 and 16.
Yeah.
I'm going to naively say I'm looking forward to my boys being that age, but I'll probably cringe when I hear that when they're actually 14 and 16.
And telling you to get out their room and stuff.
I think they're already saying that to me.
My boy said that this morning.
Really?
Good up.
So did you start them training when they were 4?
Yeah, so when I was at Gary's place doing most of the coaching, I started a kids class on a Sunday. Basically, they had no choice; they had to come. They did all right. They competed a fair bit. Like, we used to drive around the country. My oldest son Leon did a couple of really good competitions. They both did, to be fair. I remember a good one with Leon where, I don't know if you remember back in the day, there was this elite kids squad or something that used to be trained. Yeah,
I can't remember who was sort of running it. It was
Jimmy Johnston and someone else.
Yeah, and someone from sort of up north.
Yeah, I know the guy. I just forgotten his name. But Leon won. I think he won his first match, and then he went out to do the next one. And I spotted out of the corner of my eye that it was the kid was covered in patches, and it said UK Elite Squad and all that. And I was like, wow. I didn't say anything to Leon. I just sent him out there, and the kid tried 10 takedowns. Didn't complete anything. Leon kept popping up. So I think he got an advantage or 2. And then in the last second, Leon took him down and got 2 points. Sick. And I was like, yes. And then afterwards, I said to Leon, I was like, you just beat someone very, very good. But in the end, they fucking got into football. And I hate football.
How old were they when they sort of drifted towards the dark side, as it were?
I think.
The terraces.
Maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
Really? Okay, so around 10-ish.
Yeah. I did bring them back to train with Pete here. Which they really enjoyed, and I noticed that they still had the movement and things, but it was just awkward timing to get to this particular place at 5 p.m. It was just impossible. I was going backwards and forwards to get stuck in traffic, and so we just kind of let that lapse. But we watched the other day. We watched something with Wagner Rocha and his son and his daughter and all that, and then I think Leon, my older son, said to me, "You should have I wish you'd forced me to carry on with jiu-jitsu." And I was like,
because you battle with that as a parent, don't you?
Don't force him.
Yeah, my boy, I'm just keeping on showing up with him at the moment. He's turning up, isn't he? And he's kind of, he's the kind of kid, if I push too hard, I guess like most kids, he'll just push back and be like, right, I'm not doing it. So I'm just kind of he doesn't resist coming. So I'm just like, just come and just train and see what happens. But I'm kind of almost partially waiting for that day where he's like, I don't want to go anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because you don't want to push him because it's just going to put him off, isn't it?
Well, I think the story of Keenan was he left. His whole family was into it, and then Hawaii, and then he was like, I don't want to do this, and then he came back when he was, I think, late teens or something, and obviously became super duper.
Yeah. His dad was teaching, wasn't his dad back?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think his dad might have been a karate guy. I'm probably
taekwondo.
But yeah. It's so hard, isn't it? I don't force the kids to come, but it's weird with Ruben, my eldest. It's sort of been like we've had lots of conversations about like commitment. You know, like understanding what commitment is, and you're making a commitment to other people, and then you're not letting them down, and sort of we're trying to sort of instill that. So if he says like, if he's adamant, I don't want to come, I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. But I sort of say, look, if you just try and come twice a week, without being too pushy. And at the moment,
How old
he's up for it. He's 8, nearly 9, and he's up for it. Louis likes coming because Ruben wants to come, and he's like looks up to him. And Casper, he's a bit too young, but he's desperate to come. But he's got like the fire. He's chaos.
Yeah,
he
the
loves chaos.
youngest is often the craziest.
Yeah. So I've got big hopes for him.
He fits that mold definitely. He's like, out of the three of them, he's I've said this loads of, and he's like the lad.
Really?
He's the roughhouser, isn't he?
That's cool.
I feel like my daughter's. She's got that dog in her, isn't she? She's flip flopping between that and dance at the moment. And again, I'm just like, all right, it's kind of just let her do it.
I think it's important for kids to do something. It wasn't like they gave up jiu-jitsu and did nothing.
Yeah.
So they were both doing gymnastics. They were doing loads of stuff like gymnastics and probably swimming, and then they sort of swapped one for the other. They take football fairly seriously.
That's great.
So I wouldn't.
Is that all they do now? Just football?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
so you complete swimming, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, where are you going to go with swimming? Like, you can
Get
swim
faster.
pretty fast.
But yeah, you're right. I think as long as they're doing something that's learning how to use their body and get fitness and get some energy out, it's so important, isn't it?
Well, so my wife is Japanese, and the Japanese are very keen on like that stuff. Like basically almost too much. But the kids don't have a spare moment in Japan. It's like school, club, and then cram school after that. So she's definitely got that mentality of like keeping them busy. But I'd rather them be too busy than, just sitting around on their phones all day. Yeah.
How did you, so you started off, I think I heard on another podcast that you'd sort of started training, well you said that you started the class on a Sunday and you were their coach.
Yeah.
How did you find that? I mean, so they were around like 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah.
How did you find balance in being dad and coaching?
It was very difficult. Like when I was running a kids class, I'm trying to remember, did I insist on this? I didn't like it when the parents were there because it confused the authority in the room. Like you'd be telling them to line up or sit down or do something, but you're not their dad, and their dad is right there. Yeah. So they would like look at their dad and see if that's what they have to do. So I preferred it when they were not there, and then you're the only person that they need to listen to. I wasn't a great kids coach. If the kid was keen, I was into it, but you got so many kids that were just there because their parents had brought them there.
It's an after-school club, isn't it, essentially?
I wasn't into that at all. I was like, if you don't want to be here, just go away. Like, don't come. And which is not a good quality for like a kid.
You fuck off.
Don't be here, mate. It wasn't quite that serious, but I started to get the feeling like I'm not doing this. I'm not babysitting a bunch of kids. I'm not trying to make pocket money. I just want kids here that want to learn jiu-jitsu. So yeah, I'm not cut out to be a kids coach really. But with my own kids, it's a little bit difficult because they'll listen and up to a point until they don't really want to do it, and then they start giving you jip or they start like messing around.
Totally, it becomes a thing where like because you're so used to like. You're a much closer personal relationship, obviously. So they're much more easily going to like whinge and be like, "Oh, I don't like this." Whereas I think a kid that isn't your child, they're much more likely to listen to what you're saying, aren't they?
Yes.
But I do feel like
it's tricky. Yeah. It's very tricky. Parent/coach is very tricky. I think it's a minefield of potential issues.
Yeah.
Yeah. My eldest. It was like manic at first. He'd just sort of sprint around the ring and things like that. And over time, he's kind of settled down. He's pretty good. Like he gets a bit away with the fairies. But my middle child, like, I'll be showing him something. He'll be, "Oh no!" Yeah. And I'm like, "We don't know," which is fine.
In front of everyone.
Or like, everyone's lining up and he's just like walking between my legs and stuff. And I'm like, "It's very hard." Like,
I mean, it's almost worth getting another coach for them when they're small.
If there was another good jiu-jitsu gym near us,
right, Yeah.
Like, I would happily send them
Separate
there
one,
and be like,
yeah.
you go to the kids' classes over there, even though I teach them here. Maybe you come with me once a week,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like go over there and do it. I think we spoke to Chris Thompson, didn't we? And he said he sent his son to a different gym. He's never coached him, and interestingly he doesn't do it anymore. But like he trained till he was like 18 or something.
Really?
Yeah.
The only thing I was going to say is like once they start sparring, then they realise that they don't want to get beaten up, so they might listen to what you're saying. Like it's self-correcting in a way.
Yeah, there's definitely a bit of that. Ruben sort of, does more sparring than Louis, and he sort of wants to win, but then sometimes he'll just let someone just destroy him, and I'm like, why are you doing that? Like, but then I don't say that. In my head, I'm going like, why are you doing that? Like, but I'll never like say that to him because I'm just like, it was great watching you do jiu-jitsu today.
It's a hard one to balance, isn't it? Because you I don't know whether you're checking yourself that you're not coaching your kid too much. But then you end up, if you're not careful, not coaching them enough. Yeah. It's a hard balance, and I find with my boy,
very hard.
Yeah, like Ben's quite neurodiverse, but at the same time, if I try and coach him what he deems as too much, he starts going, "Go away! You tell me," and it becomes like he sees it as like another lecture or a telling off. He's like, "I'm just trying to help you." And then, but if somebody else said that to him, the same words, he'd probably take it. It's
I think
tricky one.
Yeah. What is it they say? Like kids learn from just watching what you do more than what you say, basically. So
that's why my son's getting smashed all the time.
You should be doing head and arms.
Yeah. That's it.
I think that's, talking of the kids, there's a lot of great youth jiu-jitsu in these parts around Bournemouth, and I think the scene's looking really kind of exciting. Is youth jiu-jitsu something you've kind of thought about from a Polaris perspective, getting more kids on the show and things like that?
Yeah, we've had kids matches here and there. We haven't gone kind of deep into it because we're like figuring out what's the winning formula for an event, and it's a lot of like well-established people that can sell tickets and have like a bit of a reputation, and that has to be the focus. So it's always like a balance between, there's people that we want to develop, there's some people that we want to put on because we know people are going to tune in to watch them, and then the rest of them are going to sell tickets, and like there's a lot of moving parts, not just let's put cool matches on.
Yeah, totally.
But Scramble also, like recently we went a lot heavier on kids stuff. We got loads of kids no-gi stuff and kids skis and belts and everything, and we're sponsoring a bunch of really good kids as well.
Amazing.
Or helping them out with their jiu-jitsu journey. So I can see it getting bigger in general and us being more involved. But it's tough. Like even just matchmaking for adults, and then especially if you know the guy or the person, or you've spent some time with them, then it sucks when they lose. Yeah. It doesn't matter who wins, but the person on the losing end, you're like, you feel bad. It feels even worse when it's a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
kids competitions, we've been to a few with the team, and like it's raw. Yeah. It's really raw.
Just bawling their eyes out.
Yeah. But again, I do feel like it's if you can get if your kid experiences something like that, it's such a great. It's fairly harsh, but it's a really good life lesson, isn't it?
Really good. Yeah, sports in general, one of the best things kids can do.
Definitely. Learning how to lose. Yeah, exactly. Life is just
suffering, but overcoming it. That's the
absolutely, whole point. Yeah. But it sucks watching them struggle in that moment, doesn't it? I've watched my boy lose a competition. First competition he had, he lost, and he was just devastated, upset, and it's hard watching it. But at the same time, it's like, I had to say to him, like, most of us lose our first competition.
Yeah,
It's still hard watching it, isn't it?
Yeah, that's mad. I remember bringing my kids' class to Jeff's place before I was at Jeff's place, but I knew Jeff already. And one kid quit after it because he just got pasted and just burst into tears and never came to jiu-jitsu again. I was like, that didn't work out. And then, this sucks. I think his parents were in shock as well. And then Leon got battered and was like bawling his eyes out. I've got this hilarious picture of him holding like a certificate. It's like, I competed, and his face is all red.
Oh, bless.
But he didn't give up. We drove all the way up to Coventry once for an event, and he was overweight, and I was like, oh my God, I'm getting into fucking weight management with my little kid. So we didn't let him have any breakfast. I was like, this is terrible. And then, and then he just got headlocked for like 5 minutes, and that was it. And it was just such a bad atmosphere. He was grumpy, and then we were just like, fucking drove all the way. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
Ruben's only competed once, and he had this match with this kid, and he lost, but he took it like an absolute champ. He was just buzzing for the whole thing. Like, he was just buzzing that he competed. He got a silver for turning up. But obviously, you don't say that. You're like, you won a silver, well done. Like, you can't be like, look, mate, don't celebrate on the podium. Like,
I'm not against it, especially not for kids.
No, man. Like the kids, I never say anything to them. If they celebrate their bronze for just turning up and losing, I'm just like, well done. Like, that's awesome.
You got to praise everything.
Yeah.
Expect very little when they're kids, I think, but just praise as much as you can. It's funny you say about your boy with that competition. Was it his second competition, Ben's second competition? We found out that the kid he was competing against had like 100 wins or something.
That was the first
Was it first? No,
Crikey.
was it his first? No, it was his first, wasn't it? Yeah. That was the same competition. Absolute killer. I think was he Brazilian?
I think so. He was just sat off the mat like he was levitating.
Yeah, just watching all the other matches, he'd won 100 competitions.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, crazy. And so I didn't tell him that, obviously, but I just said this kid's pretty good. I bet he's quite strong, Ben. I was just be a hassle for him, just rag him around, get all of his collars, and then his training partner just let slip just before his match. He was like, "Oh, this kid's had 100 wins," and Ben said, "This boy's had 100 wins." I was like, "It's all right, just it's fine. What's fine? It's just numbers. Just same thing. Just be a hassle for him." And he ragged him around for a little bit, but he fairly quickly got armbarred. But again, it was great, and I praised the hell out of that, saying, "Look, that kid." Afterwards, it was like that kid had 100 wins, and you still got on the mat, you still did it, knowing that, which is a huge thing, isn't it? You got praised as what you can, haven't you?
Yeah. Yeah, and they'll be criticising themselves anyway. So
yeah.
What's your plan to get the kids back into jiu-jitsu then? After the revelation of, Dad, you should have forced me to go.
I was like, really? Well, I took them to Malaga the other day, because you can fly to Malaga.
For the leg lock camp?
No, before that.
Okay, all right.
You can fly to Malaga from Bournemouth. It's like really cheap and doesn't take long, and it's just down the road. So we went for like 4 days, and I took them to Scramble Academy, Malaga, which is run by Santeri, who we sponsored for like 10 years. And their boys were like, this is pretty cool. They saw the word Scramble, and like everyone was like shaking hands, and they were going, Like they've been to Polaris loads of times, and they can go backstage. And, I'm always talking to them about jiu-jitsu, but they kind of think that it's just cringe when your dad's doing it. It's not cool. But then we had dinner with Santeri, and Santeri was telling like all the same stories, and they're like, it's really cool when Santeri says it.
Why is it not cool when you say it?
He's saying the same stuff as me, but but fair enough. So I think they've got like the inkling that it's a cool sport to be involved in, and like they're always hassling me because football. I don't know if your kids do football or anything.
They want to do it, but I don't want them to do it.
Well, I'm lucky enough, my boys not into it.
There's a lot of it might be the same as any sport, but there's a lot of like cronyism and nepotism and like parents hassling the coaches all the time.
Yeah, I've heard really bad stories.
I'm just not into that at all.
It can be a fairly toxic culture, can't it?
Yeah, but even like why don't you people trying to make more and more opportunities for their kids, but I can't really force myself to do that. Like I want them to play football. If they're really good, they'll get far. If they're not, they won't. I don't want them to get far because I've hassled the coach. Yeah. So they're always like, oh, why don't you know the guy that runs this, or why can't you do that, or why can't you get me into this trial? I'm like, sorry, I can't. But if you want to do jiu-jitsu, I can literally open
I've got
every
all these
single
strings,
door,
and I'm just going to pull all of them, and everything's just going to fall out.
That's all they're waiting for you.
I guess there's. Both your boys are still young enough where if they were to get into it in the next couple of years, they're still plenty young enough, aren't they?
The positive thing is like I've finally managed to instill in them that they need to work out at the very least. If you're not going to train, I want you to lift weights.
Yeah.
because I came into it myself like way too late, and I wish I'd done it a lot earlier. And that seems to have sunk in. Like I've got a garage with a bunch of weights in there, and they go in there fairly often. So at least they're keeping that side of it
Nice,
up.
yeah, that's good.
And they're at a good age for that when the puberty and they're
yeah,
starting to
my
get their
older
man
boy
strength.
is he's just like
Yeah,
getting jacked,
thickening up.
Yeah,
That's good. And he's getting back on the mats.
yeah, no, he'd be good.
What do you think about what's coming up then? You know, we've got CJI coming up. We've got big competitions. We just had the Euro trials.
Yeah.
What do you make of that? It was pretty divisive, I thought. Like, there's a lot of different people saying different reviews. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan of it. I really like Craig, respect Craig, have known Craig for quite a long time. I would have said I was friends with Craig, but he's so busy now, he just doesn't answer any message I send, unless I send him something completely insane, and then I get a response. And I like what he did with CGI. I went to CGI last year, was really good. I like everything that they're doing, and I'm into it. Not really into the European trials, just because I felt like it was a big step backwards, especially like the amount of work that we do to make things professional, make things big opportunities for fighters, make sure it's safe, they can earn money, they can, you might not earn $1 million the first time you do it, but there's a path there to professionalism and all that, and I don't know, I just wasn't. I mean, it looked like fun, but
we were talking about this on the way down here, and sort of saying that I think the little rule change at the end with Taylor's match and busting out like a random overtime.
Explain it to me. How can you possibly explain that?
It just sort of delegitimizes the whole thing, doesn't it?
ADCC rules. The whole thing was born anti-ADCC.
Yeah. It was a real shame, I think, because I kind of liked the event. Like, it was wild. It was sort of fight clubby. There was a lot of good stuff about it, but I think that sort of pulled the legitimacy away. You can't sort of pull the rug out from underneath the athletes. They need to know what they're doing when they start competing.
Yeah, I don't know. The whole thing didn't make sense. Why was a random dude from Atlanta at the European trials, and why did he get this like preferential rule set against Taylor? Taylor should have just been able to basically walk into the team.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, interesting one.
Yeah.
But
anyway.
what do you make of CJI coming up? It looks like it's going to be a good event, I think. Some interesting teams. Pedigo just got announced.
Yeah. It'll be really good, I think.
Are you going to go?
Possibly. I don't know, because it's pretty close to Polaris, and I've done a lot of traveling this year, and I'm going to do a lot more. And my wife there's a limit.
Yeah.
I'd like to go. The first one was mind blowing.
Yeah.
Incredible. I went to ADCC and CGI. ADCC was just a massive downer. It was shit.
Was that the first time you've been to ADCC?
No, I've been been about 5 of them.
Did you go to the one previous? Because that one seemed
that
like it was
incredible.
really good.
Yeah, that was really good. I went to that one. I went to the one before that. I went to the one in Finland. I went to Nottingham.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
Nice.
I like CGI. I think Craig is a force for good. He's just a bit bonkers, isn't he? Yeah, he's definitely living life on the edge.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm impressed by his ability to keep things together. But I don't know how long it'll last.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is for show. Well, you probably know better than I.
He's living life on the edge.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah. I mean, he came to Polaris. What's that? That was pre-CGI. Yeah. In Southampton.
Yeah, we were there for that one. Yeah,
Yeah?
because Phil was on the show.
That's right.
Yeah.
He's a party animal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had the worst. I had a 5-day hangover.
Wow.
I probably should have checked myself in to a hospital somewhere.
The way that he was at the European trial, he was just pouring tequila or whatever it was in people's necks afterwards, just like.
He's 20. I think that is his life now.
Yeah.
So.
It's his brand, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's a wild card.
He is. Yeah. He's an interesting character. He's a good guy. I think I like it at his core. Good guy. That's my opinion. Just go on.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what you're on the cutting edge. You've got one of the biggest jiu-jitsu brands going. You've got one of the biggest jiu-jitsu shows going. What do you think the future for jiu-jitsu is? Future for sort of grappling, and where do you think it's headed?
Well, the UFC is making a big play.
Yep.
and they've kind of put a lot of effort into their own show, their Fight Pass Invitational, which will probably change its name soon. I think there's a reality TV show that's been filmed.
I saw that. Yeah,
that's all done and dusted now.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see what that looks like. But there's definitely a kind of a division forming, and it's the UFC on one side and every other jiu-jitsu organization on the other side.
Because of the contracts, they're sort of busting out.
Well, I think it doesn't make sense for the UFC to be investing in lots of other shows when they can just, now that they've seen that there's a market there, because, you know, there's they're interested in growth, right? And jiu-jitsu, like EBI was on Fight Pass, then Polaris came onto Fight Pass, and a few other ones, and it's gone from this big to this big. So they've gone, right, now it's worthy of our attention. Doesn't make sense if the guy with the money at the top is like, right, we can either give loads of chunks of money to all these small organizations, or we can just do UFC jiu-jitsu and focus on that. So they'll be doing it in a big way. And then on the other side, there's like Flow, CGI. Craig's announced that he's working with Flow now, like BJJ stars. So
There's a lot coming, isn't there? A lot coming.
yeah. No, it's just getting bigger and bigger.
You wonder, I always think in 10 years, is it going to be like somewhat, I would say MMA is quite mainstream now. Is jiu-jitsu going to get to that point where it's quite mainstream? You know?
Yeah, I actually think it will.
Yeah?
I think it's like people, I read Reddit a lot, and there's a lot of people that are like really happy to kind of leave cynical comments like, jiu-jitsu will never be a spectator sport, it's so boring. But they're just wrong. You know, there's the shittest sport you can imagine is broadcast on TV with commentators and thousands of people.
Football's not that interesting, is it really?
No, exactly. Like you can't convince me that people kicking a ball around on a field is inherently more exciting than two people grappling, like wrestling. You know, it can be really exciting. You need big personalities, good presentation, and the right rule set, and that will be one of the most exciting things you could possibly see.
Yeah. We were talking about this on the way down, weren't we? About like the sort of the role of punditry. Like, you know, if you don't know anything about football and you watch a football match, you're like, oh, what's the offside rule? And then, you know, in the half time and at the end, you've got like experts, you know, using a little like moving players around. Oh, this is why that went wrong. This is why they scored. And they're explaining the game. And then the more you're watching it, you're learning about it. There's no reason why that couldn't be done with grappling, is there?
No reason at all. And you break the rules down so that they're simple enough and reduce the opportunity to stall.
And it allows people who don't train to get into it, because I think we were saying this as well. It's like I would probably argue that there's a much larger proportion of the jiu-jitsu audience are people that train, right?
Yeah.
Compared to something like football, rugby, or boxing, whatever. And I think that having the good punditry is going to sort of break down that barrier, isn't it? You know?
Yeah. So I spoke to a lot of the Quintet team. The kind of people behind the scenes at Quintet in Japan all came from like Pride and K1. Yeah. And they had quite, the opportunity to talk to them, and they said a similar thing. And I don't know if you've watched the broadcasts of Quintet, but they have loads of that where, like, I think it was Yuki Nakai for the first few, comes out in a suit when the match is finished, and they'll be like, right, just talk me through what happened. And he'll say, well, this person was on the top, they got around the legs, that's called a guard pass, and then they set this submission up and the person can't escape, so they have to give up. They took like 5 minutes between every match to explain it, because their goal was to make it more popular.
More broad.
It's really good, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's really good.
It's so simple to do as well. You don't even need to go into like super technical, because you're not explaining it to the jiu-jitsu people. They understand it. You're explaining it to
do you remember Meta Morris? Did you watch that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They did that on that show as well.
Right, okay, I don't remember that, but yeah.
It's a great way of just, like I say, reaching a broader audience, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we don't really do that, because it is interesting to think about. Our audience is just jiu-jitsu people, really, but
when do you sort of say, okay, the market is getting big enough that actually we need to start putting some stuff in, because we think if we did that, like, we could start appealing to a non-jiu-jitsu
probably
audience.
if it left one of the niche subscription services and went onto TV or like Eurosport or something, then you'd have to be explaining what was going on. But what was I going to say? Oh, CGI was the rules were so good that we just were like, well, we're going to do that as well then. Like, we have no shame in saying that. We were like, this is brilliant. 3 5-minute rounds. Everybody knows who's won, and including the fighters, so they know what's at stake. And we changed the last show, and we did that. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's really good, isn't it?
But we tweaked it slightly. So in the prelims, it's 2. And if it's a draw, then they get like a 3-minute extra round. Yeah. But it worked perfectly, because we used to have 15-minute matches. We realized that was too long. Then we had 10-minute matches. But even 10 minutes, 4, 5 minutes, 6 minutes in, there's a dip in energy. The crowd starts like murmuring. They're thinking about going to get a beer. People are like resting in positions, and then the match finishes, whatever. But with these 5-minute rounds and the possible overtime, so it's only 5 minutes. So, match isn't going to be boring. The round isn't going to be boring. Then everyone wants to know who's won the round. So all the crowd is engaged. Now they know who's won. Then it's the next round. Then everyone wants to know if it's a draw or whether it's done. It was a really good way of keeping the audience engaged for longer.
Yeah, I suppose you're just getting that from the feedback, aren't you? The whole time.
I think we're all just genuine sort of fans of jiu-jitsu. Like, I watch more pro jiu-jitsu now than I do MMA.
Yeah.
I never watched
Yeah. I used to be obsessed with MMA, but I'd rather watch jiu-jitsu, really.
Yeah, it's good.
But I think, like you say, there are more personalities now.
Yeah.
There's because I think when it was mainly people who are just, respect the opponent and just kind of sometimes quite monotone on camera or whatever, it's just boring. Yeah, you need like the Gordon Ryans and the Craigs, and you need these people that are just calling people out and being wild, because it's entertainment at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah. No, it's exactly what it is. Like, if you want to be the best grappler in the world, I guess it's ADCC. If you want to be the best gi guy in the world, it's the Worlds. And then this is professional entertainment, basically. We need personalities. The sport isn't big enough yet. It doesn't have. It has a handful. Yeah. We need more.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, we were just saying at the last podcast, weren't we, that we were like, it seems like it's the fastest growing sport in the world. And then you have to check yourself that you're in your own echo chamber.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? It's because
it's
we
not.
do jiu-jitsu. Yeah. And then we Googled it or whatever, and it was like, no, it's paddle or pickleball.
Pickleball.
Brilliant.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah,
Pickleball's probably got like a multi-million-dollar broadcast deal on ESPN or something.
Yeah.
So,
It really is crazy. Yeah.
Right. I think we should wrap it up there.
Yeah.
Look, it's been really great chatting. I think the future's bright for jiu-jitsu. It's been,
hopefully.
I hope you've enjoyed today. We are done with episode 30.
Yeah, it's been a true pleasure.
Pretty big deal.
Thank you, man.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks, man.
Thanks a lot.
We will. We'll see you guys next time for episode 31, where I think we've got another guest.
We have.
That'll be exciting. So we won't say who that is, but you'll get the surprise when episode 31 comes out.
Absolutely.
All right. See you guys.
All right, guys, let's bow there and then we'll call it a day.